Back in 2014, Mattel did a hard reset on the Trackmaster brand. They basically wiped the entire slate clean to try and go back to basics. During this overhaul, we got the usual suspects of characters. You got the Steam Team, Diesel, Salty, all the stuff you expect, right? But as is the case with almost every single Thomas toy line, there's some, how do I put this? Weird choices. So today, let's have a look at a few. First up, we got Mike, who was released to coincide with Sodor's Legend of the Lost Treasure, and this toy is not very good. So I think Mike is really emblematic of all of the main issues of Trackmaster 2. You know, he's got no painted buffers, an incorrect wheel arrangement, and just overall a lack of detail and a really horrifically misshapen body. But if I'm going to be a little bit nice here, I like his face and I like the tender. Now, you might think, oh, we got Mike, that's really cool. Surely we got Rex and Bert, right? Right? Well, no, screw you, of course not. But you know what? Despite all of these shortcomings, I still like this toy. I think I'm gonna get one right now. Let's see how much he's going for. You know what? Never mind. Moving on. Next up, we have Glow-in-the-Dark Edward. So, quick story time about this one before I rip it to shreds. During this era, Edward didn't really get that much merchandise. I really wanted a Trackmaster 2 Edward, and for some reason, in my local area, they just didn't exist. I never found one. But one day, I went to Target with my grandpa, and I saw this, the Trackmaster 2 Glow-in-the-Dark Edward, and I was like, whoa! So, yeah, I got it, and I still have it to this day, and it's weird, man, it's really weird. So starting off with the positives, I really like that this gave me an easy, accessible way to get Edward. And I also really like that inside the cab you can see his driver. We don't really get that sort of sense of scale in the motorized line that often, so it's really cool to see that here. And as part of this Target exclusive line, he features some reactive paint that lets him, glow in the dark. This being the coal, the cab, the switch, and the wheels, and even some spark detailing. But there's one really glaring issue with this release. You might be able to guess what it is. One of the biggest criticisms of the original Trackmaster 2 Edward was his incorrect wheel arrangement. It was pretty distracting and very glaringly inaccurate to the show, but at least there, all of his wheels were the same color. Here, they didn't repaint the front two wheels to be glow-in-the-dark. They're still blue, so they still had the budget to paint the wheels, but not make them match the other ones. It's quite interesting to take the biggest criticism of your previous release of this character and make it even more distracting. But that's Mattel, I guess, whatever. Next up, we have Crash and Repair Bash. Yippee. So I have nothing interesting to say about this one. I have no thoughtful analysis. It's just bad. Look at this. Why did they do this? How did this get approved? It's so... So, I'm not going to sit here and say that the Logging Locos have zero fans, but this was a weird choice from the get-go. It doesn't mean it necessarily had to not work, but man, is the execution bad here. It's just, if I made this grayscale, right, you wouldn't even be able to tell what character this is. It's just a big Twinkie. Like, I hate this toy. They probably only chose him because Bash rhymes with Crash. I swear that's probably why Mattel chose to make him. This toy sucks. I hate it. Let's move on. Next up, we have Kevin. So this one is another very, very peculiar choice. Now, we did get Victor all the way back in Wave 1 of Trackmaster 2, so it is nice to get Kevin to pair with him, but the execution is really poor here. I mean, there's no real way to make a Trackmaster 2 chassis fit inside of this character. It just doesn't translate well.
It's the biggest piece of dog shit.
So you end up with this just giant rectangular prism with a face. This and Flynn were the only, road vehicles they did for this toy line. I don't really get it. I would have much preferred this to just be a small scale non-motorized version of the character, but here we are. And apparently this must have been successful because we also got Hyperglow Kevin, who is... I don't like the Hyperglow line very much. I guess I gotta give them props for making Kevin in it. That's kind of an inspired choice, I guess. We also got Glynn from The Adventure Begins, and conceptually, I really like the idea of him getting a motorized toy, but the final product, I think, leaves a bit to be desired. You can see on Glynn here that he has a lot of black, and that's meant to represent the sort of negative space because his design is really hollow. and you can't really achieve that in this medium, at least not effectively. I feel like the only other alternative they would have had is just having him be a free-rolling, non-motorized character, kind of like the original Trackmaster Harvey. And I guess one more gripe about this thing, I never saw this here in the United States. I looked over and over for this and the Green Thomas, never found them, and I'm still annoyed about it to this day, and I don't want to have to pay the prices to import it from the UK. It's a whole thing. I'm still annoyed by it. I know it's been 10 years. I'm not over it. And now we get to the narrow gauge portion of the video. So unfortunately, in Trackmaster 2, we only ever got 3 narrow gauge engines, and 2 of them are actually on this list because they made some very bizarre picks. So first up, we have Fearless Freddy. Now, this one caught me by surprise when I first saw it. I saw it at Toys R Us, and I immediately flipped out. I called my grandparents, and I was like, oh my god, Fearless Freddy's going to be in the show, look, it's so exciting. I thought he was coming to the CGI series. I deserve the Fell for It Again award, I fear. Even though Freddy never made it to the CGI era, this is still a cool toy. This is the only model series exclusive character in the entirety of Trackmaster 2. I have no idea why they made this. I don't know if Freddy's merchandise sold really well before, like in Trackmaster 1 or Wooden Railway, but they elected to make him here, and you can't really mess up Freddy. He's just a box, and I like him, but he suffers a severe lack of detail in my opinion. Mainly, the back of his cab has nothing on it, whereas the original Trackmaster and Playrail releases both have a sticker there at least. He also doesn't have his front cab windows, it doesn't have his white running board, or his buffers, and the plates on the side and the fake side rods are pretty distracting, but because he has fake side rods, he does fit in quite well with the other Trackmaster narrow gauge engines, like Skarloey, who have those really weird static plastic ones. I really like this toy, honestly. I'm not gonna bully it, even though I gave myself false hope of him appearing in the show. And yes, before you ask, I did Sharpie the buffers. I did that on most of my Trackmaster 2 engines at the time, but not all of them. And you might be thinking, why did you give him gray wheels? And to tell you the truth,
I really don't know.
And the final narrow gauge engine that Trackmaster 2 ever released was Luke. Yeah, that's kind of strange. He has a few weird things going on about him. Firstly, he's a remote control engine, he's not a standard release. I'm not too big of a fan of the Trackmaster 2 RC engines, just because they can only go one direction. I prefer the older ones from Trackmaster 1 that could go forwards and back. And he also has some really strange inaccuracies, mainly being the silver buffers are just completely absent, and his cab is just so short. I know that's just a limitation of this toy line style, but I just feel like his tall cab is so essential to his character design. I do like his face, I think it captures the likeness really well. And I also like that the back of the cab has printed detail. You don't really see that very often in Trackmaster 2 at all. Off the top of my head, I can't think of another example that does that. There is one weird thing about his paint detailing. It kind of has this like UV printing texture to it instead of the normal pad printing that all the other Trackmaster 2 engines have. It has just this really bizarre texture. I'll try and get it on camera, but he's weird. I don't know. Also, another thing that's pretty glaring is that they gave him 6 wheels, but he's supposed to have 4. Okay, sure, why not? Editor's note, I have to record this after the fact because the audio got messed up, but yeah, the Playrail one's better. Get that over this one, but this toy is good too. All right, back to the video, bye. And now for the last section of the video, I think it's going to be a pretty fun one because we have these 3 model series greatest moments packs. These were all released late in the 70th anniversary and they all sort of go together, so I'm going to review them mostly as a big group, but I'm going to spend a little bit of extra time on Percy since I actually have him in person. Each of these 3 engines comes with an accessory that can attach to their funnel. Thomas comes with an aviator cap, which is of course a creative liberty taken. It's not actually like that in the show. Percy comes with a chocolate bit of covering his face, and James comes with these little bumblebee ears. Percy's is the most fitting considering that his face is covered in chocolate in the episode. The other 2 are just made up by Mattel, but it's fine. I think the busy bee ears on James are kind of cute. The aviator cap on Thomas, I could take it or leave it, I don't really care. But my biggest issue with these 3 is that they're all using their standard faces. James is happy, whereas in the show, he is really sad about being painted yellow and black. And then you have Thomas, who just looks to be happy, which, I mean, he is happy during the jet engine, but I usually expect him to have the shocked face like Playrail gave him, you know? But that's neither here nor there. Percy has just a generic smiley face, which works for the end of the episode, but I usually associate this scene more with him with the shocked face or the sad face. I don't know, I feel like these were a bit of a miss. I see the appeal, but I think the execution was just not quite there. It's kind of like a 70% out of 100, you know? And when it comes to James, he has another thing that kind of is distracting to me. So his main body is molded in yellow, and then the black is the accent painted color, and his tender is molded in black with yellow as the accent paint color. So the shades of yellow don't really match just because they're different opacities, which is a little bit unfortunate. And moving on to Percy, I quite like this toy. I found him at the thrift store a few months ago, and I couldn't say no considering that Percy's my favorite character. And this one just doesn't really live up to the previous releases to me. I just wish he was covered in more chocolate, especially around the face. This just feels like more of a light spill rather than the severe crash he actually had in the episode. They also took another creative liberty and they added these cutesy sprinkles on the side. It's kind of fun, but I wish they just stuck to what it looks like in the show. I also am not a fan of the rolling stock he came with. This is just a gripe I have about Percy's Chocolate Crunch toys in general. They always give him either like a tanker car or a troublesome truck like this, but in the episode, it's box vans. And the only time we ever got a Mr. Jolly's Chocolate Factory box fan was in the Trackmaster 1 rolling stock pack for Mr. Jolly's Chocolate Factory. So I'm going to pair that with Percy here right now. Yeah, that's much better. And then one last thing. All three of these engines came with little collectible cards, so they had screenshots of the episode. Honestly, I wish that they did this more. It reminds me of the old days of Take Along and Wooden Railway back when they came with character cards. It's fun that they sort of brought this back, even if it was only for this one little release. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about Trackmaster 2's weird character roster. Now, other toy lines like Erdl or Wooden Railway also have some really strange toys, but that's a video for another day. And if you made it to the end, thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe. Bye!